What is liberty is our lesson today. Samuel Adams wrote in 1772, The Natural Rights of the Colonists. He says, among the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to life. Secondly, to liberty. Thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. He says these are evident branches of, rather than deductions from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature. Remember what we have learned, that there is, in a state of nature, a law of nature to govern it. And in that first law of nature, we have a duty of self-preservation. And within that duty of self-preservation, we have, among our natural rights, life. Because government can't give you life, no matter how much they want you to be brainwashed to believe that. Government doesn't give you liberty. They are not the author of your liberty. Government can't give you property. Do you understand that government can't give you property? If government gives you property, that means they are the owner of all the property. And if they are the owner of all the property, that means that you own nothing. You cannot even live. You cannot sustain yourself. And if government gives you property, that means they must take it from someone else first. And that's theft, even if it's by someone you've elected. And you have, within the first law of nature, that law of self-preservation, the right to defend your life, your liberty, and your property. Now, what is this, our rights? How do we understand our rights? I think the best definition I have found about our rights exists in a writing that James Madison did called Property. James Madison said in his document, his dissertation on property, he says, quote, in a word, as a man is said to have a right to his property, he may be equally said to have a property in his rights. You see, just as physical and as tangible as the property that you hold, the property that you hold in your hand, the property that you live on, the place where your home and your dwelling sits, just as tangible as the grass under your feet are your rights to life, your rights to freedom of speech, your rights to freely publish your opinions, your right to keep and bear arms, your rights to due process. These are not just simply ideas, they are tangible property. And Madison is trying to drive that home here. You have a right to your property? Well, guess what? You have a property in your rights. Would you allow the government to come onto your physical property, come into your home, on your land, come through your gate, with a copy of the survey of your property? You bought your property, let's just say for hypothetical purposes, you bought this property 30 years ago. And the government comes with a survey of your property on your land, knocks on your door and says, hey, we have this survey of your property, and we want you to recognize the date stamp on this. This was written 30 years ago. That was a long time ago. Things have changed. You must admit we live in a different world now than we did 30 years ago. And since this is a different world and we live under different needs and different dangers, we're going to take these property lines and we're going to redefine them. Don't worry, we're not going to redefine them much. We need just a foot on either side as a deeper boundary between you and your neighbor. We need to keep you safe, and it's just a foot on either side, so it's not a lot. It's just enough for us to keep you safe. And this foot on either side, well, I don't think a foot's going to be enough. Let's go 2 feet. 2 feet on either side. You won't even miss it. We need to have this buffer. We need to have this balance between you and your neighbor in order to keep you safe. And so you're not going to miss this 2 feet on either side. So we're going to redefine your property lines to be inside 2 feet either side. Don't worry, your neighbor's going to also agree to have his property defined in 2 feet on either side. So we have a good buffer zone to keep you safe. It's just a nice balance between your property and safety, and we're going to do that for you. Would you let the government come and steal 2 square feet of your property? If you would not allow the government to redefine your physical property lines, then Madison is saying, why would you allow the government to redefine the property lines of your speech, your press, and your right to protect those things through keeping and bearing arms? Madison explains to us that when we choose security over liberty, we create a situation where there's an excess of power in government. And he says, where an excess of power prevails, property of no sort is duly respected. No man is safe in his opinions, his persons, his faculties, or his possessions. Because in order for government to make you safe at the expense of your liberty, you have to give them an excess of power. More power than they were ever supposed to hold. Because remember, their power only exists to preserve your life, your liberty, and your property. To allow you to preserve those things yourself. And when they take away your fundamental right to preserve your life, your liberty, and your property yourself in the name of national security, then they have to have an excess of power over you. And when they have an excess of power over you, then you have no rights. Your opinions aren't even safe. Why? Because if you know the government has the power to take your property from you, and you don't have the power to protect it unto yourself, if the government has the right to take your life or the substance of your life, and you don't have the right to protect those things to yourself, then guess what? Government has a superior power over you, and you will keep your mouth shut to preserve those substances. They will silence you through fear. They will silence you through lies, through errors, and they will cause you to think that you have voluntarily become a slave. And when you have voluntarily become a slave, you will censor yourself, and you will have no opinions publicly. You will have no means by which to maintain your own sustenance, because there is an excess of power in government. Madison says that is not a just government. That is not a just government, nor is property secured under it. What are your property? Your rights. Where arbitrary restriction, exemptions, and monopolies deny to part of its citizens that free use of their faculties and free choice of their occupations. When there is an unjust power in government, that is not a just government, he says, nor is property secure under it, where the property which a man has in his personal safety and personal liberty is violated by arbitrary seizures of one class of citizen for the service of the rest. It's about time we understand our rights, our property, and our right to protect them is ours alone.